The big thing that shocked me was how little funding there is, how little attention there is, how little of anything there is. I think is going to be in the future studied as one of the biggest mistakes in business. You think, why did we not pay more attention? If women are so precious, we didn't do that. We all know that crypto is mostly still male dominated. So we're building something that could live outside crypto and could live in crypto. I will do whatever it takes to make this happen. Web 3, Web 4, Web 5, Web 1, like stones, sticks, you name it. That's why governments are still regulating women's bodies. In the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of money going into this because we're going to be desperate. It's going to come and smack them in the face so hard that they're going to understand it.
Laura will be standing there saying, like, hey, I told you before.
Hey everyone, that's Renegade Science podcast and your host Marie Nimfuer. I'm always excited to welcome female speakers at the Renegade Science studio. Today my guest is Laura Minquini, founder of AthenaDAO. Laura has experience in entrepreneurship, marketing and fashion. In the past, she worked with luxury brands, owned a company that created a successful B2C product, and worked with Amazon and Apple. Later, she became deeply involved in longevity and Web3. After contributing to the efforts of AthenaDAO, a collective that funds early-stage longevity research, she founded AthenaDAO. This organization focuses on research and innovation in the field of women's health and fertility. Enjoy, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Let's start. Hello, Laura. Thank you for joining today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm always excited to invite female guests to the studio, and I would love to have at least 50-50.
That's a good goal.
So, I love what you do with AthenaDAO. I think you are empowering women, and how to fix this gap that exists now in funding the research in the field of women's health. And as a woman who myself went through the IVF procedure, I understand that this system is not perfect, definitely, and there are many technologies, treatments, and apps which are available, although education and funding for research is very much needed. What is your personal story behind the creation of AthenaDAO?
What is my personal story? I love how you asked that question because I've told I've been asked about, I guess, the story of how AthenaDAO came to be, and I always talk about how I started my career in fashion. Then I had the great opportunity to be the CEO, co-founder of a consumer tech company. And that was like my MBA in business because I learned how to do the entire value chain from design, manufacturing, distribution, marketing, all the entire range of bringing a product to market, selling it, and then running a company from doing that. I did that about 8 years. And one thing that I noticed is that business was getting commoditized. I learned very early on that when Amazon learns really well a business, they white label it themselves. So owning the data and the distribution is super important. And that's the magic of Amazon, I guess. And I thought, okay, this business is going to maybe not be the thing that I want to do. One big thing is that when you are doing accessories for Apple products, a lot of what you make is going to end up in landfills. So there are a lot of products out there in the world that are going to outlast us all. And I didn't think that was my life's mission. So when we sold that and I was looking for something that was more meaningful, more valuable,
I guess it still also made money. It was not easy to find something. And by pure fluke, it was my dog who I got to volunteer, who I started bringing to hospitals and retirement homes, that I realized how we age. It shocked me. I did a market study in it. I didn't like what the age tech business was doing. Like, I did not think having better diapers or better data aggregation was improving aging for the actual person. And that's when I discovered longevity biotech. And that was my big aha moment. I love the field of life sciences. I love the field that brings technology and biology and scientific research together. I'm not myself a scientist. My dad is a PhD in geology, and his biggest sadness back in when I was a high school student was that I didn't want to be a scientist myself. So I'm going all back. He must be very happy that I'm here now, working with scientists all the time. But I guess my big realization that I wanted to be in the life sciences came from the longevity biotech side of things. That made me learn about reproductive longevity, which is anything that impacts women's ovarian aging, which is tied to fertility, or when you come at the end of fertility menopause, which really impacts women's health. And the big thing that shocked me was how little funding there is, how little attention there is, how little of anything there is. And it shocked me so much because I used to do trend forecasting for an agency in Paris, and one of my clients was LVMH, Louis Vuitton. So I used to do go-to-market strategies. I used to learn about their launching of product strategies and all of this. And when you look at the numbers, and of course, LVMH, which I don't know, a lot of people know what it stands for, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, which is the biggest conglomerate in luxury in the world, luxury and much more. They made their fortune in selling luxury to women. Dior, Louis Vuitton, all the brands that they, Sephora is from LVMH, which is beauty. So many perfumes, so many fashion brands. Who buys that? Or who used to buy that, let's say, 20 years ago? Women mostly. The richest man in the world is the man that created LVMH, Bernard Arnault. So he always is at the top. He didn't have to have ovaries or breasts to understand the power of the female consumer and the power of storytelling, because his first company that he bought was Dior in the 80s. The richest woman in the world, it's the L'Oreal fortune. And L'Oreal was created by a man, but it comes from beauty. And who bought beauty from the 1950s, 60s, 70s? Women. So women hold incredible power. You told me that I empower women. I want to take it back and say women are powerful. We've been told we're not, but we're very powerful. And women make 80% of the consumer decisions at home. So if women realized that pharma, governments, collectively are not paying attention to women's health, and if we decided with our dollars where things go, things would really change the dynamic. So more than empowering women, what we want to do with AthenaDAO is point them to the problem, because most women don't know. I didn't know that women's health was massively underfunded until 4 years ago or 3 years ago. I didn't know that a lot of my girlfriends, very intelligent, professional women, when I tell them I do this, they're like, but why? Is it a problem? Like, I have an app to check there's IVF. You mentioned you had a journey with IVF. IVF hasn't really progressed that much when you consider it's been around 45 years. The first IVF baby was in 1970, now 46 years because it's 1978. It's still very hard for women who go through it. I'm sure you know. I'm sure we can do another podcast with your story. So obviously efficacy rates are still very low the older you get. It's almost like women became the business and the product, because rather than improving how we do IVF, we are trying to put more clinics up. We're trying to get women to freeze their eggs, but we're not telling them that even if you freeze your eggs at 25, if you try to have the procedure done at 45, there's going to be a mismatch between your ovaries and the egg. And that's going to really reduce the chances of you actually being successful with IVF. That was the impetus for AthenaDAO, is realizing there's a massive funding gap, which makes no sense to me. I think it's going to be in the future studied as one of the biggest mistakes in business and the biopharma business in general, that we decided that women were not a vertical that was interesting. Just for the record, less than 50% of the biopharma companies in the world have a women's health strategy, even though women make half of the world's population. That means, what it means to have a women's health strategy is that they actually have an R&D team that focuses on funding therapeutics, or that can do clinical studies or things that for therapeutics that will impact, or for medicine that will treat female specific conditions. The thing is, you find a business, it works well. Like, for instance, HRT is the only treatment we have for menopause right now, hormonal replacement therapy. So the pharmaceutical companies that sell us the HRT do well with that. I guess they don't feel incentivized to improve if something works, don't break it. So the irony is that they have HRT, they sell it to us, but they don't actually have the women's health strategy to actually figure out other therapeutics or molecules or medicines. It's a complete and utter mismatch of market potential versus business strategy. And that's AthenaDAO's role for us. What we're trying to do is to help prove the business case for women's health being the massive business opportunity that it is. We have to prove it. I don't know why, because it should be so obvious. It starts with the science, and we need to find more of the science. It all goes back to that.
And I would say that this is ridiculous. We're living in like 21st century, and so much effort was put into getting equal rights. Why do you think it's like that? Is it a heritage of like previous centuries?
I've been asked many times, what do you think this is? And lately I've been trying to reflect more on that, because I've worked, when I was the CEO of that consumer tech company, I used to go to CES, which is the biggest consumer electronics show in the world every year. I was in Vegas for almost 2 weeks when we had our booth, manning, entertaining. I don't even think then I felt the astounding shock that I feel now in this vertical in women's health. I don't have an answer to why this is. I don't think there's a cabal of men out there trying to not make this happen. I don't think there's any evil intent. I just think there is a lot of biases, inherent biases, that even very well-intentioned people do not recognize. I think the fact that it starts with science, women being allowed to be physicians, women being allowed to go into universities. Marie Curie, who by all success was an incredibly successful woman at the turn of the century in France, an immigrant, a woman, what she had to go through to have the career she had was a Herculean feat that took a lot of strength. But she's one outlier, and we need more of that. And sadly, they didn't happen as often and as much, but women like that paved the way. But it takes a lot of effort, and it means that we are lagging behind our male counterparts because we started the race later, or they allowed us to start the race later. And in science now, I think the thing that really got me going was the fact that I learned the NIH only spends 10% of their budget on female-specific conditions. Women are half of the world's population, and even if they were only a third, when you think that women bring life, and every man has a woman in his life, just at least a mother, you think, why did we not pay more attention? If women are so precious, if we idolize women staying at home and being the mother figures, why do we not spend the money to make sure they're healthy and that we make sure that they're safe, healthy, and happy? We didn't do that. And yeah, it is definitely a legacy problem. It's definitely who has the capital problem. And it's perpetuated by the fact that women that have the capital also want to make sure that they compete in a men's world. So their biases are always also stacked towards maybe, oh, not because I'm a woman, I'm going to benefit a woman, or not because I'm a woman, I'm going to benefit female causes, because I'm going to show that everyone that I'm at the same level as a man in business. So even when women get to that stage, sometimes there's another reverse bias that happens where you want to compete in because you made it up there. You're now sitting with the big boys. You're like, I have to be like the boys. So we have to contend with a lot of dynamics that impact how much capital allocation happens, how decisions are made. And it starts with the science, then it starts to the venture funding of startups, then it continues all the way to the path to the reason pharmaceutical companies don't have a women's health strategy is because there's not enough assets that would make it to the level of investment that they do. And that starts because the first part is the science. We're not funding the science. We're not getting the data. We're not getting the IP. We're not getting the things that would push things forward to have more interesting startups, more assets come to a series A, B, a series D, and potentially have an exit into a biopharma company. So it's a lot of things to fix.
What I love about your story that you bring this business acumen to female-focused DAO. For me, it's interesting because I've read in one of your interviews that you are essentially building a consumer brand and not a Web3 brand. How do you do that?
So from when we started this, the reason I thought crypto was interesting and Web3 was because the whole notion that you could bring communities together on a mission. And the original mission of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, is that. It's community governed, it's community driven. It's a group of people that get together, aligned on a mission with different competencies, doing different things in the DAO to make that happen. So I thought that was a wonderful concept. However, we all know that crypto is mostly still male dominated. It's mostly men. It's still mostly men trading. It's still mostly men buying tokens, buying meme coins. That's because the male mind operates different. There's more FOMO, more YOLO. It's also very young. So there's kids who made money very fast and lost it very fast too. But once you enter the ecosystem and you're like, you tasted that, then you stay in it, obviously. I found the mechanism very interesting. But when we went to market with AthenaDAO, one of the big things is to make it not feel crypto, because I think the value proposition can live outside of crypto. We wanted to make sure that it was something that eventually we could spin out our own products. We could not products, but we want to go the route where Athena's DAO mission will be fulfilled if one day there is a therapeutic that ends up in your hands that came from AthenaDAO. And I don't mean a supplement. I don't mean like something that I could have done without all the troubles of opening wallets, having DAOs from whatever, because funnily enough, a friend and I were working on a supplement project like 4 years ago for longevity. But what I mean is a real therapeutic that could potentially impact your health, that has gone through FDA approvals or has everything in place to really become something that is mass market. And why? Because going back to what I told you, I think women have a lot of power, and it's called consumer power. And in the end, the market decides. And in crypto, maybe women is not the market that decides, but outside in the real world is the women that decide. We're building something that could live outside crypto and could live in crypto. I want the market to speak, and the most powerful market in the world are women. And that's
Yeah, and
who
they
I want
also
to touch at the
speak
end.
happily.
Yes. They speak with their wallets. They speak with their, I mean, kudos to all the influencers in Instagram that can, they made fortunes from knowing how to talk to people, selling something, and speaking to people where they want to be, the way they want to like be talked to. We have to crack that code at AthenaDAO because we're very science-y oriented right now, and that's our next stage. We've spent 2 years building the reputation with the scientists, with the research institutes, with people that are hardcore into the research and the science, that are working at prestigious institutes around the world, that are in the lab, that are the the geeks that we love because that's how things get done. Our next stage is how do we actually take all of that and package it to bring it to the market that we care about, which is women? And how do we put it in front of them in a way that makes a difference for the DAO in terms of showing, see, we need to be speaking to women because they're the most important consumer market in the world.
I would say that you serve as a bridge between Web2 and Web3 world, and science and blockchain are super hard for a newcomer to understand. Yeah, anybody who tried to set up a MetaMask wallet will agree with that. Do you try to onboard Web2 women into Web3?
I don't think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it for the first time here. And it's I've said it now privately to a lot of people. My mission is women's health. My mission is not to onboard anyone into crypto. My mission is not to onboard anyone into Web2. My mission is women's health. I will do whatever it takes to make this happen. Web3, Web4, Web5, Web1, like stones, sticks, you name it. So we started with Web3. I've said it many times now to Web3, we are a great mechanism to onboard women because we've onboarded a lot of women. We've onboarded a lot of scientists. We've onboarded a lot of even investors or funders that had never even had a wallet. I know this is possible. However, for us to accelerate our mission in women's health, I always say go to where people know can function the best. I think Web3 is great for the alignment of mission. AthenaDAO is a great incubator of science. I don't want to lose that, and we're going to keep that. But I think to reach our target audience, which is women, we are going to have to do that bridge into Web2. Because Web3 just hasn't simply given us the tools to do that. Jeff Bezos spent millions on their team to make sure that his only obsession was that people could buy things with one click. No inserting cards, the only obsession was people need to be able with one click get the thing they need. With Web3, put your email to get a link, to get a wallet, insert the wallet, put on the bridge. It's too expensive. Go to you have to bridge to this chain to get to, by the time, sorry, I can't. Next time. I'm not a technical person. If I was a technical person, my only obsession would be to make sure this happens. But as I'm not, my obsession is making women's health happen. While they figure out if that can happen in Web3, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go to whatever web gives me the access to the women where they are at, and that's what we're focused on.
Oh, I love you. You're spectacular. I think I'm sure that you're a great entrepreneur, and you were and are a great founder and a CEO, because all means are justified. I will just make it real.
I will. And that's the thing that's the biggest thing. I don't care how I'm going to make it happen. Not that I'm going to do something bad, but I just want to say something for the people that are watching this. And I've always thought You know, Celine Dion, everybody makes fun of. It's kind of very poppy, you know, and everybody listens to it. I'm Canadian, Mexican Canadian, so Celine Dion is obviously an icon. And all of us know there's her songs, you know, we've heard it, one or the other. But I would encourage to the women and even the men to go watch that documentary that she came out with recently. I would encourage it because it shows you that even the richest people in the world, when we don't have research in certain areas of health, they don't have any solutions. Obviously, she does have way more solutions than most people, but it gives you a very candid look at pain, and you know, pain that is related to to a very rare disease. But there's a quote that I literally did memorize because it really spoke to me on my quest in my mission of women's health. She said, if I can run, I will walk. If I can walk, I will crawl. I won't stop. And that's how I feel about this. So if I can use Web3, I'll use Web2. And if I can use Web2, I'll start sending mail outs to people, but we'll make it happen.
Yeah, and even send snail mail.
Anything.
Pigeons.
Yes, pigeons.
That's amazing. I'm absolutely sure that AthenaDAO will be successful. Yeah, and will crack all this code. But what I want to ask is, you do a lot of futuristic stuff. In the last days, I've read so much about artificial wombs, technosemen, DNA reprogramming. This all sounds like coming from a sci-fi movie. How close is that to just a normal woman, yeah, like you and me? So what is your focus?
Sorry about my dog. The inspiration for everything.
It's okay.
He always makes an appearance. We launched a Reprotech cohort this summer, and in a way, it was a way to also show that women's health has a lot of moonshots, because in Silicon Valley and in tech, you always hear about the moonshots. And I just for me, a moonshot is extending fertility. For me, a moonshot is getting rid of endometriosis or diagnosing endometriosis, having better treatments for menopause other than HRT. There are so many moonshots that would impact our health that are important. But those moonshots are not sexy enough for the dudes. I personally, I am fascinated by the artificial womb. I am a big proponent of it. Why? Because I know that there are a lot of women that biology has not allowed them to have children, even though they're now ready for that. There's a whole new conversation on social media, specifically in X, where the trad wife or guys that are, you know, there's even anti-feminists that are advocating for women to go back to how we were at the turn of the century in England. We cannot go back to that. That train is gone. The same with technology. The internet is here now. We can't go back to newspapers. Like, that's like asking somebody to say, forget the internet. We should go back to reading the newspapers and the books. You can't do that. And you can't do that to women either. Women have to make very hard decisions very young. It's very hard for women in this generation that are between 25 and 35 to own a home of their own, to find a husband. They're choosing their careers not only because of the girl boss thing, but because they have to. The standard of living of young people is not the same as before. Our parents were married at 25 and they own a house. My parents owned a house when they were 25. My sister is 30 and she doesn't. The standard of living is completely different. The economy is different. Women are choosing careers because they have to. There's no husband around the corner either to throw like the red carpet of, I'm here for you. That's just not, apps change that. So women have become very self-reliant. They're saying that women, because they emancipated themselves. No, because we have to. That means that they put the 10 years, 15 years in their career. By the time they get to 40 to 45, even if they froze their eggs, they might not be able to conceive. The reverse case is in the developing world, women are having babies too soon, and they're having also They're not bringing babies to term because they're malnourished, nutrition, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's from both ends of the spectrum. I love sci-fi. I know these technologies are going to happen. I think that our argument for looking at them and for owning that narrative is because I rather it's a collective of women that decide where this technology is going to go than it is the usual suspects. And for me, that's the big part, is how can we bring women into this conversation? Like you say, I went to look at it, and I think I saw it on your questions. Is this something that would be against God or playing God or?
Yes.
It's a really bad.
Well, it's not my question.
No, but
It's a question that people very often ask when
it
they
is,
hear
and I
about something
know
like artificial womb.
it shocked one of my really good friends that I've known for many years when I told her about this. She's like, but it's not natural. And I say, you know what wasn't natural? A heart transplant. You know what wasn't natural? Oh, I mean, the very basic thing, an incubator. Babies used to die. Well, we let them die because it's natural. Somebody has a heart disease. Well, we let them die because it's natural. A lot of things are not natural, but it doesn't mean that it's evolution. And I think the biggest part that we have to play right now in this evolution is the fact that women should have a say in where these technologies are going. They should be active participatories. The intellectual property of these technologies shouldn't be siloed in just some places. To be a species, to evolve, we are going to need these technologies to go to outer space. And I don't only say that because in tech, everybody is excited about that. It's the reality. If we want to travel to space, we're going to need to figure out all of this. And to me, this is the shocking part, because there's about 3 documentaries coming out about space and mining in space, living in space, traveling in space. And I can guarantee you there's very little or maybe nothing on all the reproductive technologies that we're going to need to do all that space. It shocks me that it's always like a blind spot, and we wanted to bring it to attention. And I have this big thing where I say some of the biggest sci-fi has always made it obvious that reproductive power or technology is where everything's going to move or not move. One of that is Blade Runner 2049. The guy had achieved everything except reproducing the replicants, which was the next thing that he wanted to do. And Dune, more recently, the Bene Gesserit, they pretty much mixed the lines and kind of moved around how the empires would go. And that has to do with controlling reproduction. And that's why that's why governments are still regulating women's bodies. And in America, women are not fully autonomous owners of their bodies because the government can come and say no. The fact that women can bring life into the world is one of the most powerful things that I can imagine. That's why they're trying to control it. And that's why technologies that touch reproduction are so controversial, because in the end, it is about that. You control so many things when you're able to control this crucial part of life. And who are the only ones who naturally are able to do it? Women. Of course, they need the men, but maybe in the future they won't with the artificial womb.
Yeah, and with some techno semen, yeah, it will definitely work.
Yes.
So, about your Reprocohort, so you were talking about Moonshots. Can you tell a little bit about the project that participate in it?
So right now we're in the getting the information part of things, meaning the people are applying. And I can tell you that there's some really exciting projects, some dealing with nanosensors, other things, I won't say on what, some placenta research. We're looking at a lot of the bottlenecks of the artificial womb. There's already a lab in Israel that has built an MVP with mice. So it exists. That from mice to human is a big jump. So I'm not saying that's going to happen in 1 year, 5, 10, maybe even, I mean, I'm not projecting when. It is going to happen one day, but there are some serious bottlenecks. So we're looking at a lot of pieces of the hardware, or what would be required for the hardware eventually for the artificial womb. The other part that we're very excited about is that we do have some researchers that work with space tech, so reproduction for space technology. We did find them. So we're very excited about that because when we talk about reprotech, we are talking specifically about that. And I know that sometimes people get mad because they think, oh, we could be solving problems in Africa. We could be solving all these things with this money instead of spending it, or we could be solving endometriosis. Why are you spending money on like these technologies that are in the future? That's how it's always worked in general in humanity. There's always been a group of people that are working for the things that are going to make it in the future. And if you think of it, we wouldn't have iPhones. We wouldn't be sitting here, you and I, talking remotely through these apps if there weren't the crazy people that went to do the things that require doing for the future. We're continuing our road in trying to fund more women's health research. Our last cohort was oncology. Our next, we're going into autoimmune diseases, other areas that really impact women. The Reprotech was really to show everyone that even within women's health, there are so many exciting things for those that just care about the big exciting things.
What would be your biggest exciting thing that you can imagine?
I have a bias for ovarian aging. I'm obsessed with menopause. You see a lot of the longevity enthusiasm by the tech industry, people in general. They're talking more about longevity. And the thing that they don't realize is that for women, if we don't figure out ovarian aging, our longevity is not going to be that much. No. We already live longer than men. The key is, can we live longer than men also with more health? Because then that could also extend. It's actually women. It's mostly women that are the longest living humans in history. I think the famous one in France, she smoked, she drank, and she lived I don't know how many years, but it was a woman. I'm just saying that if there was anything that I would throw a lot of money into would be really extending ovarian life. As Dr. Jennifer Garrison says, we need to decouple it from reproduction because people think that it has to do with that. Like, oh, you're going to have children at 16. No, I just want my ovaries to be fine, so my menopause is delayed. Decouple that part. The ovarian life, hormone creation, hormone factory, health, all of that from the fertility side of things. That would be like the one thing that if I had all the capital in the world, that's where I would put it. Because it would make a lot of difference.
Yeah, I think it's a very noble goal, definitely. And I'm now in Honduras, in Vitalia.
Oh, cool.
So in the city that wants to cancel death, and here there are a lot of nerdy, amazing scientists. And I had a very controversial talk with one of them, who said humans start being able to have children very early. That's why they stop being able to conceive, females, of course, too early. So like now we're living like up to 80, 90 years old. So it's not logical that people only can have children between, I don't know, like 14 and maybe 43, 45, if you are very, very lucky. And he made an example of a whale, some whale that starts to be able to get pregnant at 70 or 90 years old. This is like what I want to do, he said. He said, I would love to be able to move the process forward. Yeah, so people, like, they have time to grow, to build career, and then somewhere around like 35 or 40, they say like, now I'm ready to have children. Something turns on in female DNA. And for the next 40 years, they're able to get pregnant and conceive. wild concept, but very, very attractive for me personally.
Well, I mean, I think that right in this day and age, because we've extended life, it would be amazing if women between 40 and 50 were able to still have children naturally. That I totally agree with. It takes a lot of energy to have children, a lot of patience, a lot. So our bodies are not able to do all of that much later. Some people can, by all means. I just don't think everybody's made for it. So biology in that sense, I mean, it was evolutionary in many ways, right? It is true that why women were having babies earlier and all of that is evolutionary, but there's a part where evolution worked out, and then now we have all these tools that has defied evolution, but we haven't done it so much in the female body. Those tools and that technology hasn't had incremental gains, incremental impact in female biology, and we need to work on that. Interesting.
Yeah.
You'll have to connect me to that scientist.
Oh, I will. I will. He's brilliant. His name is Leo Nisola. I will do that.
Yes, please.
Yeah, he's an immunologist and a cancer researcher.
Well, he's probably in the right track. I don't know if at 80, but 40 to 50 would be good enough.
I think like you need to connect. Maybe you will create something together or collaborate. Who knows?
Well, I always want to know what people are working on, and obviously part of what we're doing with AthenaDAO is trying to connect with the scientists the most.
Yeah, then definitely Vitale is a good place to do that.
Yes.
Because it's full of crazy scientists, that are ready to change all the world. And like here in Honduras, the regulations are different. That's why Prospera and Vitale, so they are located in a special economic zone with special regulations. Do you experience any issues with, like probably not you, but the projects that you fund? Do they experience any issues with regulations regarding the reproductive research?
I'm probably going to have a very different opinion to what's the reigning, like trending thing, which is we need to go to new zones to like do all of this work. I want to be mass market, meaning reaching the female consumer. So I think my goal is to work within regulatory frameworks. With that said, there's a very good story of the pill. The FDA didn't allow for certain things to happen in regards to the pill. And the woman, the founder of Planned Parenthood, she went to get a scientist in Mexico, funnily enough. And there is a big now controversy on the fact that these women in Puerto Rico, they were not advised of any side effects, anything. So I think we have to be very careful in how, from past history, we do these things. The FDA, from talking to a biopharma expert, it's very up and down in what things are easy to pass through them and what things are not easy to pass through them. It's not like a very, oh, it's so hard or it's so easy. It's up and down according to the target, according to all these things. I'm of the frame of thought that there's a limit to being able to do things outside of regulatory frameworks, because eventually, if you want this to really hit mass market, you're going to have to get them into regulatory frameworks. So why not just go straight to the regulatory frameworks from the get-go? But I know that the current trend is not that, so.
Yeah, I agree that definitely makes sense. From the other side, there are different opinions in this field, and that's good that everybody is just like working towards the common goal. So it doesn't matter who will reach it first.
Yeah.
The important thing is actually.
Well, the thing is, whoever works with regulatory frameworks is going to reach the market faster.
Here talks the businessman.
Well, I mean, you can be very fast, but if you still have to go to the hurdle of regulatory frameworks, there are things that you're not going to be able to overcome, like distribution or go to market or all of that. So we can kumbaya about biohacking on ourselves without no regulation. But the day you want to put this in front of 1 million people, you are going to have to go through regulation.
I would love to ask you, how do you see the future of reproductive technologies in the next 10, 20 years in the techno-optimistic way?
First of all, I'm very optimistic about women's health. Second of all, because we're working on it now. Second of all is I think there's going to be a very, very, very big increase in interest and capital allocation in this, because I know that they're saying this is now becoming sort of right-wing coded, which I think is not good, but that the population crisis is real. And I say this because I came into this from the longevity side of things. And one of the biggest things that me is confounding is the fact that people don't realize that by 2050, there's going to be more 65 years old than there's going to be kids under 14. Women are not having as many kids right now. There's going to be a change in population so dramatic in the demographic split that is going to be so scary. People don't realize what we're heading for. So there's going to be a very big increase in funding, in schemes, in things that actually help women have children, and even older women. Why? I mean, look at France. France already is the most progressive. France has nuclear, so they're smart that way. And France pays for one IVF, one freezing, egg freezing brown, as well as IVF. That's part of healthcare. They're already in the future. And that's what all Western world should, the entire Western world should do. But that's not going to be enough. In the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of money going into this because we're going to be desperate. The problem with humans is that we do things when we're desperate, not when we don't do them strategically. There's going to be also, even for longevity, because there are going to be so many older people with diseases. We need to be spending money on extending health span. And I know the longevity maximalists hate me for this, but yeah, okay, living forever, but can we at least live healthy until 80? At the very least, let's start with that. Between longevity increase and the population, both of them are going to be very hot categories because humanity is going to be desperate. So I'm optimistic.
I love it. Yeah.
I'm optimistic because it's gonna be so badly needed, because we're gonna be we need more babies. And it's a fallacy, the fact that there's too many humans. It's not, it's all cyclical. It's all, yes, humans are not the best at consuming natural resources. We're not well known for managing that properly. But when you imagine that we have a healthcare that's overtaxed by people that can no longer work and need medicine or need treatments, and there's absolutely no one young to work or no one young to come with new ideas, with new progress, with that fresh blood. And we don't need it for the infusions. We're just going to need it because that's the beauty of life. The cycle of life.
Do you see that this understanding is emerging or not? Because I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, this shift of a demographic towards the older populations is ubiquitous. It happens everywhere in the civilized world. And as soon as women get access to the education, they immediately stop giving birth to so many kids. So for me, what's interesting, do you, as a leader of a female-focused organization that promotes that, do you see that there is more understanding now in people than before?
That we need this? No. There isn't. No.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's going to come and smack them in the face so hard that they're going to understand it. But I think the really cool people understand it, aka people that are already putting capital into these technologies. Governments are always this last to react, to be honest. That's the end. Unfortunately, because they should be the first ones. It doesn't matter if you're left wing or right wing. It shouldn't be like that. It has to do with having some common sense and thinking about where things are going to go when the demographic change happens. It also has to do with having some common sense of what won't be anymore. It has to be what will be. I wish people thought more in that way. We cannot go back. We need to go forward. And as you say, women, once they have education, and maybe because they have to have education, because they're not going to have the husband. The 25-year-old dude is too busy having 30 dates on Tinder to worry about getting married. He can get sex with half of those girls. So marrying is not a prerogative anymore. So what does the woman have to do? Sorry, what do you want me to do? Sit and wait for Prince Charming to come? No, I have to go to school and prepare myself. So that's happened, and that's happened across the world. In China, it's a problem. Men are not finding women because they're too busy having their own best lives. But these women will also need options. And with more time, as that population gets older, they're going to realize I need more options on my reproductive journey and my reproductive life. In the same way that we have options for everything else, we should be having options for women to not think it's too late for them to have babies, because people don't realize that if we were giving women the chance between 40 and 50 to have kids, there would be so many children on earth right now. It's just, we don't have the technology.
Women at 40, 50, they already have a career, education, everything. They
Money.
have a family, or they say, no, they have money,
Yeah.
they have resources.
Yeah.
They are perfectly ready
Yeah.
to have children. Yeah, so it would be a perfect future.
Yes.
I think so. And when this apocalyptic future will come and hit everybody in the face, Laura will be standing there saying, like, I told you before.
No, I don't believe it's going to be apocalyptic. It's going to smack us and it's going to go very fast. But I will be there saying, I told you so. I mean, I did trend forecasting for a while, so I could see things coming, maybe a couple of things ahead from people. I'm an optimist by nature. I do have like a bit of that techno optimism. However, I also ran a business in which I ran a team of 20 to 25 people on a rolling basis. Every salary we paid with the money we made. I never had, when I had that business, it wasn't venture capital, which was like, here, go have fun. I know what it's like to make money. I know what it's like to pay salaries. I know what it's like to make a profit from that running a business. So my calculation on things is not always a pie in the sky. It's like, how am I actually going to get to the part where you make money and this is something real? That's why I'm not, that's why I say regulation, cool. But if you want to make it in front of 1 million people, aren't you going to have to run it through regulators still? So why not just try to get to that stage first? Sorry, but 1 million people are not going to be able to go to Rotan to get things done. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes, that's for sure. You will own the future. I already see that.
Oh my God.
I can forecast it. To wrap it up, what can we expect next from AthenaDAO, and how women who got interested after this discussion can become involved?
The great news is that I told you that it was very important for us to reach women. And one of the things that I've experienced in the last year, going to a lot of conferences, meeting women in Web3, meeting women in just tech and investing and all of that is, and this is something very important. Most people, all they want to know is what to buy and how to do it in the end. So we need to provide real utility for women that goes beyond that, oh, we're funding science. It's like, great, but that science might not touch me. The big thing for the women that are listening and the men that have women in their lives, girlfriends, sisters, really cool women, female friends, is we are doing a fertility course, back to school fertility course. Yes, so we are going to do an online and in-person experience. The in-person experience will announce. It's a very big thing, but I'm just gonna, not going to fully say everything yet. But the online experience, we're dividing it by two verticals. You can join the women who want to learn more about egg freezing and IVF, or women that want to learn about the perimenopause journey. So we're splitting it in two. And I mean, some of the syllabus is similar, but basically it'll involve access to experts, some really cool brands, a syllabus that takes you. Our mission is for you to be able to bring to your clinician all the right questions so you advocate for yourself on everything. We're not giving medical advice because that's not our role, and that's not the thing, but we're preparing you for a toolkit where you feel very confident when you're going to an IVF clinic, when you're going to do your egg freezing, when you're going to your OBGYN for perimenopause to say, can I look at this? Can you tell me about this? So that you have almost like this, you know what to ask for, and you know when they're telling you an answer, you can recognize, you're very prepared to advocate for yourself during these journeys. Because one of the big things is it depends where you live. It depends who your doctor is. It depends what clinic you go for IVF. I don't know how you did it when you prepared, right? You went online, I assume, and tried to figure out groups and communities and all of this. So we're trying to do this for our community because we already have some women that have asked for it, and also bring it to more women because we have access to the clinicians and the experts, and we actually want to put more science in front of women so they're better prepared, and it's not just an influencer, which, as I said, influencers are wonderful, but we can get very contradictory information, and we want to make sure that we are a resource, that it's coming directly from the latest science, evidence-based research, or clinicians, or people that have been doing this for a long time. So
this is amazing.
Yeah. So anybody who's interested in coming to our community, we're making the full announcement next week. So by the time you come up with the podcast, all the information will be there. And it's a back to school, Know Your Fertility. And it's our first, I would call it direct to consumer utility product, which they can get value out of, that it's immediate and real for something that's very important for them today. Not like science that's going to impact their health in like 10 years, but what we can do today to help them. And I think this is very important.
So yes, you were completely right. I was circling around the internet and Googling as crazy, getting so much controversial information that contradicted each other. So definitely women who will participate in this course will get a lot of value. I'm sure that it will be a huge success for AthenaDAO, and thank you so much for coming today. You are an amazing badass woman.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I had fun. We laughed. I think I have to remember my jokes that I said here. I really love the questions, and keep having fun in Vitalia. I think it's super cool, these experiments. And yes, even if my opinion is different, I do think that there's room for all of this. And it's a very exciting time. The techno-optimist in me says there's so much to do, and there's still there's still a lot of opportunity. And we do live in a wonderful world with wars and famine and all of that, but it's still wonderful.
And on that, we wrap it up for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria.
Have a beautiful rest of the day. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.